This is a really interesting. How do you find the next big thing? Okay, your podcast was a big thing, I guess, and it has worked. How do you find the next big thing, the next big trend? Do you basically workshop with yourself, or do you try and get amongst your team and say, well, what are you guys seeing that I'm not seeing?
I think closing the feedback loop with all of our touch base with our customers. So for us, we ask our staff literally to feedback to us every week what our customers are loving and what's working. And I think leveraging into that, we've already stepped way more into our storytelling through jewelry and away from other things like fashion trend-based items that we used to do. But actually, one of our biggest forms of feedback is a biannual survey that we do with our customers every single year. And we ask 10 questions, we reward them with a voucher at the end. And for us, the feedback and the knowledge that comes from that has shaped where we go forward in terms of, I guess, keeping on trend. So that's been huge for us.
Yeah, customers will tell you where to go, that's for sure. Yeah.
They will.
Yeah. Let's go to Susanna now. Susanna, what are you doing to try and find the next big thing?
For us, it all starts with how we can grow the value for our consumer audience and for our brand partners. And we have a bit of an approach now that we've honed. So part of that involves really engaging our team in a bit of a Shark Tank exercise. So anybody who has this bent toward entrepreneurship is invited to participate, and they come up with the most incredible ideas that many of which become embraced within the company, are part of how we do business today.
Let's go to Bridie next. And Bridie, so how do you find the next big thing?
So rather than focusing on what everyone else is doing, look, we often find that people want a version of what they already have because they know it's safe. We often buy the same shirts, the same shoes, we go to the same coffee shops. People like to stick to their norm. Yet, as an innovator and a disruptor in this industry, I think it's my job to probably show them what I think they might like. Based on their customer purchase and customer data, I look at developing new products that don't exist based on what they like with a little bit of an intuitive and innovative spin on it. I did this previously last year, a new product, signature, worldwide, first exclusive. When I launched it to market, no one knew that this was possible. No one knew they wanted it, and it completely sold out. There was 8 tons sold just to email list in under 24 hours. This product that would have scared people if we showed it to them earlier, when delivered to them in a really inclusive way of how they could use this product and to show them how they, could innovate their own making, made it a signature line for us.
Podcasting is becoming really important, and lots of businesses are using it to, get themselves out there and give themselves a competitive edge. Have you got into podcasting?
I haven't as yet. I'm an avid listener, but I haven't been on the other side of the microphone.
Think you might?
Oh, possibly. I do find podcasting is a great way to open your mind to what else is going on in the world, because we can somewhat fall into the trap of safety within our own walls. And being an entrepreneur, sometimes those 4 walls don't involve anybody else. So I love listening to podcasts. And
yeah, you're absolutely right. Let's go to Susanna now. Susanna, have you got into the podcasting activity?
We haven't actively ventured into that space just yet, though we are working on one right now. Personally, podcasting is absolutely my guilty pleasure. I listened to one on Friday, actually, from Lin-Manuel Miranda on his creative process. And it is my most favorite thing to be alone in the car, without my 3 and 5-year-old, just able to tune in to learn from these amazing creative minds all over the world.
Okay, let's go to Hannah now. We know that she actually is podcasting. When you decided to do it, tell us why, and what have you learnt from podcasting? People are learning from you, but what have you learnt from podcasting?
Yeah, so it's actually a lot harder than it looks. Just the recording and getting it all out there online. And we started ours during COVID lockdown last year, and it was heavily around telling our story for the first part, but then also telling the story of other entrepreneurs. And our second series is all about having a heart of gold, so people who are giving back within the community in line with our values. I must say that we have dropped the ball a little bit. We haven't released a podcast for a little while because things have gotten a little bit hectic. But I think that the number one thing is to really make sure that it's in line with your values, and really closing the feedback loop again and asking people which episodes they loved. And it turns out that people actually love listening to the first episode where we were talking about ourselves rather than interviewing other people. So that's something that we might even sort of lean more into in the future, and open ourselves up to just interviewing, like my sister and I interviewing each other with questions from our audience.
Susanna, Bridie talked about the importance of community building to her business. What about you? Has community building really helped your business?
Our community is quite literally everything for us. We've been in business for a decade now, and we've created a community of 3 million culture seekers, we call them. And they really turn to us to seek out recommendations on things to do, book, buy, eat, learn, stream. We see our role as really serving that community to help them get out there and live the good life. And building that community has been absolutely the greatest achievement of my professional career. And we're now at a point where we have such a strong relationship with them, such an engaged relationship with them, that we've started co-creating with our community. And that feels like true connection with this audience. We're now at a spot where we are actively engaging with them and sharing their experiences right alongside ours. And it's a real shift in the media power balance. And I really love that. We're really meeting on this very engaged and very connected and very equal level.
Yeah, that sounds really exciting. It's really exciting. Hannah, let's go to you now. What about community building, with your business growth?
It's an interesting one in that at one stage we actually deviated away from our community and we were trying to be too big, and we actually forgot that the heart of the business and the reason why we grew so fast in the start was through community building. So actually we've come back to open-ended questions and asking our community what they think about our products. That's been a big one. So because we can make in-house, we can turn a new product to market within 48 hours. And we've started to go into the studio, make a product, ask our customer, what do you think? And they'll tell us yes, they'll tell us no. And for them to be able to see the product launch 48 hours later has been really engaging. So that, in a sense, is how we've sort of leveraged their input, and it helps us create a successful product because we know that it's actually going to sell. The latest thing that we've just done actually last week was we've opened a Facebook community. We have now a group that our really loyal customers can actually join and have access to myself and my sister and ask questions, and I actually get more behind the brand. So that's something that I think a lot of businesses are starting to acknowledge and adapt, those community groups, and that's something that we're excited to be a part of.
Yeah, you paint the picture of a real win-win relationship, don't you?
Yeah, it's one of those things that, I mean, we serve them, so why not open the lines of communications up as much as we can?
Yeah, okay. Well, I've got you there. COVID-19 has created supply chain problems right around the world. What have you learned out of that experience of trying to get the supplies you need? And how does it basically affect the way you're going to do business in the future?
Yeah, so prior to COVID, I guess, when you have multiple manufacturers, the more you spend with a certain manufacturer, the more favorable the terms that you can negotiate. So prior to that, we were kind of like moving a lot to our most consistent supplier and asking for, like them to look after us a lot more. COVID has actually shown that to de-risk the business, we actually need to diversify. So we, not just one one country as well. I was talking to Bridie earlier around, not just relying on, let's say, China or Hong Kong for our packaging and some of our supplies, but diversifying. And I think COVID has taught us also that we're so fortunate to be able to make in-house, and we're now working on a risk strategy. If there's huge supply chain issues and postage issues and things like that, can we do 100% made in-house as well? And, to be able to manufacture in Australia and pay Australian wages is something that we're really, really proud of. So COVID has definitely been something that has, I guess, highlighted that. And I think our customers want to try and support Tasmanian and Australian made wherever they can as well.
Yeah. All right, Susanna, what about you? What have you learnt from the supply chain problems of COVID-19?
To be honest, Peter, supply chain issues haven't really impacted us all that much in terms of the digital media space.
Bridie, let's go to you now in terms of the supply chain, because a business like yours, supply is critically important. What did you learn from the whole COVID-19 thing?
I learned that knowing your analytics, knowing your data, and just exactly how much stock you need is imperative. You can have a great business with an amazing customer base, but if you don't have stock, you do not have a business. So we saw, whereas in Europe, manufacturing was pretty much shut down, which made the containers coming out of Europe really hard. But we found Turkey to be a really great area within the supply chain to focus on. So enabling you to sort of filter within different countries and knowing, like, I might have 50 ton worth of stock on the water at any one time, knowing that it might, if it used to take 23 days, it might take 45 days. But knowing that when it arrives, it just flows into, a lovely, warranted and recognized system. It's not management by crises. We're looking at what we need, how long it may take, and implementing steps 6 months ahead to ensure that.
And did your planning incorporate the supposition that one day the Suez Canal would be blocked and maybe some of your suppliers weren't going to get through for a long, long time?
Yes. I moved into a really large warehouse just as COVID hit. So I'm happy to store product because I don't want to be without product. So I'm always trying to be 3 months ahead at least, because I know that's normally the length of delays if there will be large delays, because I don't want to sell out.
Great, fantastic. Before we wind up, we want to throw the floor open to our panellists to ask questions of each other and maybe bring out some stuff that hasn't come out in our previous discussions. Hannah, let's kick off with you. Is there anything I haven't really brought up you thought, gee, that dope, he should have actually asked me this question?
Now you're putting me on the spot. I do always love to know what others think are the 3 ingredients to success in business. So Susanna and Bridie, what do you think are the 3 ingredients that have contributed to your success?
I would say passion. So just having an utmost drive and living and breathing it. Purpose will get you there, and prosperity, really. Putting on the spot, I think I am aligned with those areas, and I think new businesses starting out, you need to have focus in more than one area, and you need to have your eyes across all areas of your business and also your customer base. So those things should help you on the way.
True.
Hannah, I spoke a little bit earlier to the ideal team player and that model of humility, hunger, and people smarts. So I would definitely classify that. And then the other thing that I'm really leaning into and embracing at the moment is this idea of being is becoming. And it's that be, do, have idea and concept. So really just showing up a little differently in this world on the flip side of COVID, and really bringing my whole self rather than feeling this need to act in different roles in different areas of my life.
Oh, I love that. For me, Bridie, we're very similar. Passion, I think, is something that, you know, I meet so many people who want to start a business and often they just try to pluck something out of thin air. And I say you have to be passionate about it because, you know, like you want to be able to do this and not get paid for a very long time. The other one is conviction for me. You know, turning down a 5-year law career for business that was quite small at that time. You have to be fully convinced in order to convince everyone else that your business is worth supporting. And then the third one for us was perseverance. So persevering through, you know, a really, really tough journey, eventually things pay off. So, yeah. Over to you, Susanna.
And to add on that,
yes,
just
Bridie.
to add on that, I think sometimes people can think their idea is too small. So when I was starting out, I was really successful in my teaching career and I was on executive and they had, you know, bookmarked me for all these things that I didn't want. When I said that I was going to leave my career to do Fiverr, everyone laughed at it. Everyone thought it was a silly idea. There's not a market. But my whole teaching career, I always try to get across to my students, if you love it, other people will love it. Don't worry about listening to people who haven't done it, who aren't stepping into their dreams, who are too scared to do it. Don't listen to them. You will be successful if you are 1000% committed. It doesn't matter your industry. So a Fiverr artist, you know, you could be designing stamps or shoelaces or cufflinks. It doesn't matter. People will align with you and your purpose.
I have a question of you guys. And it is about this sort of cultural context that we're now in and all of this narrative around it's not really a new world. Everything that we're experiencing is going to be kind of extraordinary from now on. I'm curious about what you've seen in the shifts over the last 2 years that you think will really stick around, I guess, either in a cultural context or in a business context.
You know, COVID has made people realise that lifestyle can be achieved, you know, not with huge amounts of money. So I think a lot of people are looking to, I guess, paint their lifestyles that might be like a 3-day work week or a 4-day work week rather than waiting till retirement. So that seems to be a bit of a shift. And my sister recently talked to a group of grade 10s about entrepreneurship, and she opened it up to questions at the end, and she was gobsmacked by the amount of young people who were asking questions about sustainability. And I think that's something that the younger generation is actually going to care about a lot more than our generation's sustainability. So they're probably the two things that I'm looking at as a business owner, you know, lifestyle for my employees and also sustainability for the company.
Just like Hannah, lifestyle. But turning your passion into profit, that is now an achievable thing based with, you know, you can easily set up a website, you can easily start an Instagram page and market for an audience. Your idea, be it a passion project, can become your main income. And still having connections to my school kids, we're seeing lots of youth actually wanting to create businesses, whereas it used to be go to university, get a trade. We're seeing people look globally for trends and find things that they could possibly, you know, when we create businesses, they're not for ourselves, they're for our, you know, the lineage that comes after us. And there's so many touch points that people are recognizing. You said, Susanna, that you were 5 generations small business, and hopefully in years to come that is apparent amongst a lot of us, that we're closing in the gap and to create a more sustainable economy. So I've got a question. So for the small businesses that will be watching this who probably don't have the funds or the many things that we now look to, if you had $5,000 to run your business from today, where would you put that $5,000 if you had to start again from scratch? Would you put it in marketing? Would you put it in developing new product? Would you put it in, in billboards. If you only had $5,000 to start, what would you do with it?
They say that advertising is the tax that you pay on a bad product. And I think that focusing on an amazing product, quality, price, some sort of value proposition is probably the biggest. So maybe putting some money towards that. And I think, being able to launch to market online is cheaper than ever. So I would probably say going towards creating a website, but also even kickstarting it with an in-person market. That's, I think, an underutilized way to sell these days. It's really hard to hit people cold online. In a market, you have a captive audience. So maybe some money splash there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. People often say, I don't have 10,000 Instagram followers or I don't have this large audience. Yet, if you did a market stall and 50 people turned up, if you had 50 people in the room in front of you, you would give them your best self. But sometimes we are distracted by numbers that are online because, oversaturation.
I would spend it in something related to my gaps in skill set. And so I think it depends a little bit on what the product is that I'm bringing to market, but I would either spend it on the very best possible talent available in that space or in building my own knowledge around that particular sector so that I could actually bring that and give a whole lot more life and get a lot more return to that $5,000 spent.
I'm probably a mix of both of you. I would go into R&D, developing a product that would then market itself.